Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, one and all, to this Cult Potato Podcast, the cult movie podcast. As always, I am your host, Campion, and usually joining me would be my good buddy Grady, but unfortunately, he's dead. Well, dead to me. But in joining him in his place is my good buddy Grady. How's it going?
I'm going great, okay? There's nothing wrong with this film. It is a perfectly good film, and back to you.
That's all you had to say?
I gotta defend the film. I'm gonna be on the defense the whole way throughout this episode.
Okay, so you're just be keeping that kayfabe up the whole video.
I have
the, whole
the shield.
Episode. I wish this movie had the shield. Anyway, what film are we covering today, Grady?
We're covering the fourth film in the tetralogy, Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain.
Why did you decide to inflict this on me, Grady?
I genuinely believe that this is a good film.
I won't lie, I enjoyed watching this greatly. I really enjoyed my viewing experience for reasons that the filmmakers didn't intend.
Yeah. It's a good film because it's goofy. Of course, the bare bones premise of three school children who are all ninjas trained by their grandfather showing up to a amusement park,
who is very obviously Asian.
Oh yeah,
these are three of the whitest boys I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and they go
raised
to the theme
by
park.
the whitest mother I have ever seen in my life,
and father. I don't remember if it was ever explained, I'm going to be honest. There's 4 films of lore on Three Ninjas
I'm sorry, but I didn't brush up on my Three Ninjas lore going into this movie.
You should.
I went in blind.
It is my maybe second favorite of the tetralogy. I prefer number 2, but the theme of this season is pro wrestler movies, and this has Hulk Hogan in it. And number 2 does not have Hulk Hogan in it. It just has a lot of insensitive Native American dancing. Slightly different vibes versus the theme park setting for this one.
Yeah, well, they had to cram the racism in somewhere, and that's why you get Hulk Hogan.
I agree. But yeah, look, I will just explain from start to finish the bare bones premise of this film, right? We already said three kids trained by their Asian grandfather to be ninjas rock up to a theme park. Theme park gets taken over by people in sunglasses. They ninja their way out of it with a television show character who somehow all of a sudden gets really good at fighting, and they save the day. And also some dude who's become a hostage at gunpoint because they're trying to get money off him, or they'll turn the rides up so fast they'll kill everybody on them.
Even though I'm pretty sure theme park rides don't work that way.
No, you just pull the throttle and it gets up to killing speeds.
I'm pretty certain that sounds like something you would have to deliberately put in. Like, I don't think actual theme park rides have that built in, Grady.
How do I know? The only thing that I know about theme park controls is watching High Noon at Mega Mountain.
Grady, this movie sucks. I'm just gonna be real with you. This movie sucked. It is far and away the worst movie we have covered thus far on the podcast.
I disagree.
What do you think's
the
the
worst films?
What do you think's worse?
We have done Monty Python.
Okay, that wasn't terrible as much as it was just depressing at how old we've gotten. About how we don't find it funny. No one finds this film funny, Grady.
I found this film, like, I guess maybe this was the first film that I watched where I enjoyed it because it was goofy and stupid, and as you say, not how the directors intended it. But it is also very much a film targeted at kids. It is made for, like, 8 to 10-year-olds who want to see cool ninja kids doing ninja stuff.
But I'd like to point out that we've covered other children's films on this podcast, like The Secret of Nim and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and
Those
Labyrinth.
at least have deep stories.
Labyrinth didn't. Labyrinth was very much a, classic adventure film. But those three were all films targeted towards children, and they were fantastic.
True. I maintain that this film's good.
I'll maintain that this film is entertaining to watch.
Okay. I will take that. I will take entertaining.
Yes.
Because, honestly, I don't fully remember 3 Ninjas 1 and 3's plot lines, but 3 Ninjas 2 is just as crazy, where there's, like, a floppy disk that has a bunch of data about, I think, waste, possibly radioactive, seeping from the landfill into the Native American land, so bad people kidnap the Native American and try to get this floppy disk, and it's just an hour and a half of ninja kids fighting weird redneck cowboys over a floppy disk. So
is that? So wait, which is the? Because I've only seen one other one. Which is the one where where there's actually like other ninjas that they're fighting, and they're like they're the final fight is like on a boat, and the boys have to team up against like one guy. And Grandpa like sneaks on board the boat. Which one's that?
No, the boat is the first film.
Okay, so
there's also ninjas in number 3 though.
Okay. and according to the film, there are ninjas in this one that they had to fight. No matter how many times they said, "Oh, look, it's ninjas," I don't believe that the pasty white guy in a Hawaiian shirt and some of the least threatening sunglasses I've ever seen anyone wear is a ninja. I loved it. All the bad guys, they all had those little, like, the silver sunglasses with, like, little holes on the side. And it's like, they're hideous sunglasses. They're the kinds of things that only, like, a 90s, like, children's movie villain would think are threatening, which I guess fits this film pretty well.
Yeah, it's how you know they're the bad guys. How do you know they're the bad guys if they don't have the sunglasses on? That's how we notice. Everybody's wearing sunglasses. They must all be bad.
They're not even sunglasses. They're just really lame and tacky. Like, I always thought the go-to bad guy sunglasses was always like aviators or something, sunglasses that kind of look cool, whereas these ones look... they look awful. I may miss some parts of the 90s, but the fashion is something I can do without.
Fair enough. There's very little credit that I can set. Like I said, I'm going to be on the defense, and I'm going to be here defending the film the entire way through. You're going to continue to make valid points, and I'm just going to sit here and go, but it's a good film. Because there's a lot wrong with this film, and I can openly admit that there is a lot wrong with this film. And I think one of their biggest problems that they always come through is that and this is throughout, I'd say, most of the 3 Ninjas films. I'm trying to quickly double check now. But I think, minus like 1 or 2 of the actors that they have come in, the 3 kids are martial artists, not actors. They're like martial artists first and actors second. And that leads to some not great on camera.
Yeah, Power Rangers did the same thing they still did. Power Rangers does the same thing, if we're being honest.
And, like, it works because you get some well choreographed, like, over-the-top fight scenes, and they can pull it off, and when they're doing their big kicks and stuff, you don't need a bunch of stunt doubles in, and I get it, and it's meant to look like a martial arts film, but it does mean that when you do have 2 characters on a screen talking to each other, that it struggles.
I would also argue that during the fight scenes, this film struggles. This film doesn't, come running out of the gates. It just weakly limps, and then it continues limping very, very slowly.
It's a good film.
Towards the finish line.
It's a good film. I guess also along those lines, with the hiring martial artists to be their main actors for those 3, all 3 of the kids had to be recast for this film as well. So it's not the boys who'd been doing the previous films.
I
so
read
it's
that.
brand
Do you know
new
why?
people. They had to go back to
find
school.
Out why? Okay.
I believe at least Colt, if I remember correctly.
I think Colt's carried over from the last film. I don't
No,
know
so
about
all
anything
three of them
else.
were new. Colt was the only one in number 3 that carried on.
Okay.
Please, don't challenge my lore here. Colt was meant to do it in the 4th film, but had to go back to school.
Okay.
I think the other problem as well is the first film, like the first 3 films were 92, 93, 94, and then you jump to the High Noon at Mega Mountain, and it's now 98, and that's 6 years from the first film, so like the guy who was playing Tum Tum is a lot more grown up, and the guy who plays Rocky doesn't want his face anywhere near a Three Ninjas film ever again, probably. And so, yeah, it's a little, like, you can't keep using him, I guess. The only character that stuck around for all 4 movies was Grandpa Joe.
Yeah. Played by veteran actor Victor Wong.
Who's come up before on this podcast.
Yes, I was very surprised when I saw him. I'm just like, hey, I recognize him. That's Walter Chang from Tremors.
No, that's Grandpa from Three Ninjas, please.
his proud, yeah, this is his proudest role, not his excuse me, what's the look at his IMDb, not his role in the Best Picture winning The Last Emperor. No, it's here. it's Three Ninjas.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this Three Ninjas film was Victor Wong's last film as well.
Very unfortunate that of all his movies, this had to be his last movie.
I still maintain that it is a good film. According to Victor, it was his favorite of the Three Ninjas films.
Okay.
So he went out on a high note for the movie that he enjoyed, at least.
Yeah, well, at least he was having fun. Wasn't this also the movie he was the least in?
Yes.
That's damning by faint praise.
Shush. It's a great film. Victor Wong liked it.
Yeah. He plays well, I know that a classic thing, like he plays a Japanese man, but I believe Wong himself is Chinese.
Yes, I believe so. And also, you know, probably his bigger role in Big Trouble in Little China.
Mm-hmm.
Which we may get around to at some point on this podcast, but
I feel like we should just do like a John Carpenter week.
Please, we have to finish Three Ninjas week first.
Month. Oh yeah. Oh, move out of the way, John Carpenter. We need to talk about the Three Ninjas.
Look, for a kid who really liked his martial arts growing up, seeing 3 people do it as kids in a movie is good fun for me, and maybe that is where all of my defense will come from.
I feel like, but Grady, I'd like to point out that we could have just watched Big Trouble in Little China, another martial arts action movie that is infinitely better.
Doesn't feature 3 ninjas.
But it has Kurt Russell and James Hong. So,
but it doesn't have Michael Olasky II.
Who did he play?
That was Colt. It's a nobody. They don't have a Wikipedia page.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the cast list. Most of them don't.
Most of them don't have pictures on IMDb.
Yes, I noticed. What was her name? Amanda?
Amanda.
The tech whiz kid that they run into? She doesn't. I think she said like 3 film credits total.
Yep.
Let's see.
It's not the most well-known cast.
Jim Varney. There's one.
That's
Lonnie
probably
Anderson,
one of the only people. Is Jim Varney is probably other than Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Lonnie Anderson has a pretty decent career.
So you got 4 then.
Yeah.
Grandpa Hulk, Jim Varney, and Lonnie Anderson. That's your 4.
That's 4.
And that's really all this film brings to the cast. Everybody else is not there, and I feel like in this film you can tell very quickly as well, because somehow Hulk's acting is still garbage, but like it is carried by the campiness and just the stupidity and the comedy segments between the villains, mostly carried by Medusa and Lothar, the 2 actual actors in the film.
Yes. The people, I like to think that they were, I don't know this for certain, but I like to think that they were aware they were in a garbage movie, so they just went, nah, okay, and they just had a fantastic time. Like, Lonnie Anderson, every time she's on screen, she looks like she's having a great time. She's just like, yeah, I'll play this ridiculous Saturday morning cartoon villain. I don't care, I'm getting a paycheck.
I think the thing was that Lonnie was like umming and ahhing about the film, but she asked her kid, and her kid said, "Yes, do it. It's Three Ninjas."
The classic. Why is this actor in this terrible kids movie? The old Raul Julia.
Yeah, she asked her 8-year-old son, and he said it would be really cool. And her son was also a pro wrestling fan, so really enjoyed the fact that Hulk Hogan was in it. And even loved it even more because Jim Varney, also known as Ernest, was in it. Yes. It was a triple header.
I can imagine her son just like, oh, it's going to be the best movie ever, Mum. You got to do it. You got to do it. She's like, really? You still don't want to pick anything else?
I maintain it's a good film.
It really
I have to keep
like
saying that.
The full Raul Julia.
Every 5 minutes, it's a good film.
Yeah. Do you know? Okay, by the way, Greg, do you know what I'm referencing when I say Raul Julia? Do you get that?
I get the concept. I don't get the specific reference.
Oh, we got to watch the Street Fighter movie. We should put that on the list. Oh, you'll love it. You'll love it.
All right, so I've spoken. I've outlaid the plot. I've talked that I like it. You've talked that you might not like it. So I'm just going to lean back and I'm just going to let you talk about the film for a little while and your first impressions coming into watching this, having not seen 2 of the 4 Three Ninjas films and barely remembering one of them.
Yeah, the last time I watched the Three Ninjas movie, I was like 9.
Yeah,
10.
a long time ago.
It was a long, like nearly 20 years ago at this point. It wasn't the best impression. Noted that when the film opens up on that obstacle course that they're running, and they're running through those swinging bat things, and the littlest child, Tum Tum, which is an awful name for a child, by the way. I don't care if it's a 90s kids film. That's a terrible name for a child.
You're aware that Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum are nicknames, right? They're really called Samuel, Jeffrey, and Michael.
I don't care. It's still a dumb name for your character.
He's always eating, so they call him Tum Tum.
It's still a terrible name.
Alright, sorry. Continue.
Anyway, and he just kind of casually saunters through the bats, and I'm pretty sure one of the bats clearly hit him, and you can see the bats kind of slow down as he wanders through, and I'm just like, this is going to be great. This is going to be this kind of movie. And the film itself just seems to the pacing just feels really awkward and weird. Like, it slows down a lot, especially during the fight scenes. Like, the scenes where you see this full grown-ass man just kind of taking these big, slow swings at this kid, and the kid being all like, I'm dodging, I'm really agile, when it's just like, no, it's because you're fighting against a man who is clearly trapped in, I don't know, an invisible cage of honey. So his movements are just really just awkward and slow. And even the dialogue, like, what was the name of that one, I don't actually care what his name was. One of the bully kids, the one that was constantly hitting on Rocky's girlfriend.
Yeah. I don't remember his name, but I know the character you're talking about.
Yeah. One of the worst actors I've ever seen. Every line of dialogue that came out of his mouth was delivered in a way that was so wooden, I could have built another desk out of it.
That is one way to put it.
And to top it all off, I'm pretty sure the last line of dialogue he has is where he pees himself, and I'm just like, oh, that's great. That's a nice little nice cherry on the pie here. A fat man screamed in the world's least threatening fat man screamed in his face, and he pees himself. What a great send off for this character.
Look, that character was garbage.
the unscary fat man or the bully who can't act?
The bully, for sure.
And I did have to look this up, because the fat guy looked a lot like the guy who played Hurley from Lost, and I had to double check to make sure it wasn't him. It wasn't, which is kind of sad. So I was like, well, at least his career would have, gone upwards after this. But no, it was not Hurley, which disappointed me greatly.
I think outside of the 4 good actors we talked about, nobody really went on to do anything from any of these films.
Good actors, quote unquote, because one of those good actors
is
Hulk Hogan.
One of those 4 big name actors. Alright, so you didn't like the film then?
Oh, no, don't get me wrong, it was an awful film. I had a riot of a time watching it. It was a lot of goddamn fun because of just how it's bad, but it's not the usual kind of bad I'm used to. It's just really awkward and just not all that well put together. Like, in the fight scenes, the camera's back just a bit too far, and there isn't, a lot of real motion in there, so it feels really weird and stilted, to the point where I honestly got vibes of original old school Power Rangers. Even Power Rangers had some decent choreography. Did they even have a fight choreographer in this movie? Because if so, they were not doing their job.
Oof. I don't know for sure. I'm sure they did have at least some people on there doing stuff like that, but the old school Power Rangers, I think, is the vibe. Like, I don't know, it's almost like an American take on a, Eastern martial arts movie, where they've taken...
Well, that is kind of what Three Ninjas is, if we're being honest.
They've taken the worst aspects of the martial arts movie, amplified them, and slapped an American label on it.
And just kind of... And unlike a lot of those ones, where at least, they just got actual, martial artists, like your Jean-Claude Van Damme's or your Chuck Norris's. Here, it was just kind of off. It was just very poorly put together, is what I think I could say. But on the topic of Power Rangers, I think that is very much the vibe they were going for Hulk Hogan's character, Dave Dragon.
I'm pretty sure he had 5 Power Rangers alongside him, yes.
He did. What were they called? The Star something. The Star Force 5, that was it.
Yeah. How can you forget a name like that?
I'm pretty sure Star Force 5 is pretty sure that's a Mega Man game.
Oh.
Okay, there was no Star Force 5. I think it only went up to up to 3.
That's good. Hold on, there's a Three Ninjas wiki.
Oh, but I loved it when it came out with the Star Force 5, and they are just some of the worst costumes I have ever seen. And I love old school, Japanese tokusatsu, and there's some atrociously awful costumes in those old, Japanese superhero shows. But even by their standards, the Star Force just have just the worst costumes I have ever seen. I'm talking tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills kind of levels of quality.
So I've popped up an image now. This is probably the highest res I have ever seen Three Ninjas in my life. This one image here. And what it looks like is that they've got on a morph suit of their corresponding color. They've then put wrestling trunks on top of them. And now they are wearing kickboxing shin pads, kickboxing gloves, kickboxing elbow pads, kickboxing chest protector, and a kickboxing helmet. So they're just wearing sparring gear that you'd kind of expect a fighter to wear, but also a morph suit and a pair of spandex underwear over the top.
Yeah, it looks just it's something special. It looks just and it's odd because, okay, I found this. I did find a picture of Hulk Hogan with the actual Power Rangers, which I thought is kind of funny. But yeah.
It's like this film wanted to lean on Hulk Hogan, and if your film is leaning, nice photo. If your film is leaning on Hulk Hogan, you got a problem.
Yeah. In fact, I read one review which was just like when you that things are sad when Hulk Hogan gives the most touching performance in the film.
Which, again, I think still comes down to hiring martial artists to be your main actors. You could have gotten any normal actor and just told them.
I feel the need to point out, Power Rangers did the same thing, and as bad as that was, still way better than this.
But they're also not kids. You got that double whammy.
True, they were like 20-year-olds masquerading as teenagers, so...
As is classic.
Yes. Rocky in this film is an actual teenager, whereas, someone like Jason or Tommy, I'm pretty sure was in his early 20s during the filming of the original series.
Yeah, it was... Yeah. It's a good film.
And... just, my favourite scene is definitely the first scene where Dave Dragon gets introduced, where he's at Mega Mountain and he comes swinging in, and, the Star Force 5 are there, and he just kind of rides down on that zip line, and it's a man who clearly is not Hulk Hogan. He rides on the zip line, flips off, kicks the two people, lands, and there's that crappy little, smoke bomb explosion thing, and then he turns into Hulk Hogan, and it's just like, these were clearly two completely different actors. They didn't even try.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Like, the guy they got as, like, Hulk Hogan's stunt double didn't even have a mustache.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do love how it's obvious that Hogan's wearing a wig, but I do like how, it's because the actor, he wears the wig in the movie. I do like that.
That's their excuse.
Yeah.
Especially when I think Hulk actually showed up with that wig on a couple WCW shows at the time.
Okay, so he was WCW in WCW.
I've now gone through and I've researched. He was in WCW at the time. Yes.
Okay. Was the NWO, were they kicking around this time?
I would believe so. I think most of the time that Hulk was in there, he was in the NWO.
Okay.
I don't know my wrestling dates off by heart. Okay.
Hang on, I need to figure out how old Hogan was during this movie.
Well, the film was 1998.
He was born in 1953. He would have been approaching his 50s at the time of this film.
Yeah, he'd have been pretty old. I have to go to a separate Wikipedia
45.
page to get the New World Order members.
He would have been 45.
Yes, Hogan was in the New World Order at the time of filming and at the time of release.
Okay.
So it's your favorite Hulk Hogan. Look, I really want to defend this film, but I'm at least glad that you had fun. Like, that's the minimum.
I did. I genuinely had fun watching this. Like, it's the kind of bad movie that I like to watch, because there are some bad movies, like, oh god, okay, there's actually way too many to list, where it's just really boring and uncomfortable to sit through, and you can't really pick anything fun from it. But this is in the same vein as, like, that live-action Cats movie they did a couple years back, which is just like, it's weird and terrible, but in a very fascinating and very fun kind of way.
I want to connect this one more time to Power Rangers. The actor who played Colt in this movie played the kid version of Rocky the Red Ranger on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Okay. That's something.
His second other role ever.
Well, that's something, I guess.
Look, this film has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes from
I
6
saw that.
reviews. It's
I saw that.
not well rated.
No.
When I'm looking at like facts on IMDb and stuff, you know how people can add movies to lists?
Yeah.
And they appear on the side here, and it's like, these are the lists that these films are in. The first one is Catalogo y por DVD, something in Spanish. CB/Ham radio films. I don't quite get it. Then it starts making sense, right? Favorite movies released in 1998. That person's got taste. Martial arts/boxing movies. Factual.
It fits that definition. Yes, this does have martial arts in it. So by definition, it fits into that category.
And the 5th list it's on is called Cinematic Abortions.
That's what we should have named this podcast.
It is number 1 on that list.
Okay, I just have to quickly look this up, right? So, what was it? Best films of 1998?
1995. Oh yeah, 1998, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, 1998. Armageddon. Great movie. Saving Private Ryan. Great movie. Godzilla. Yeah, that was kind of shit. A Bug's Life. Great movie. Deep Impact. Mulan. Great movie. Lethal Weapon 4. Passable movie. Ants. You know. The Avengers. Not the one you're thinking of. The British one. Although from what I've heard, it actually, the Avengers movie in 1998 was genuinely terrible. So, I don't know, maybe we'll throw that on the list as well. What I'm saying is, Grady, I don't think that this classifies as some of the best films of 1998. It looks like they actually had a pretty decent year.
Nah, it's a good film. Also, I'm just looking at other movies that this person put on Cinematic Abortions, and I'm just going to say that there are some good films on here. That's all I want to say.
Like what?
They put Flubber.
That doesn't hold up.
The Tuxedo.
I haven't seen that in a while, so I can't say.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah, okay, I'll agree with that one.
Alright, they're pretty bad films on
The
this
rest
list.
of them are pretty terrible. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, The Last Airbender, Drive Angry.
Look, I was trying to find good ones off here. The Carrot Top film's on there too, Chairman of the Board. It's all horrendous.
Oh, Wild Wild West.
Three Ninjas is a good film.
Yeah. Before we continue shitting on Three Ninjas, do you want to? I've got one piece of trivia about the film Wild Wild West. All right.
Okay,
So,
drop it on us, and then we'll go back to Three Ninjas.
I don't know how true this is, but apparently, I'm pretty sure it was Kevin Smith was contracted to write a script for, or someone was contracted to write a script for, a Superman movie. I think Man of Steel. This is 1998, so this is long before Zack Snyder took his crack at it. And it ended up falling through because one of the producers really, really wanted a giant mechanical spider in the movie for some reason. And they kept saying, it's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit in this film at all. It's going to be really expensive to do that, and it's going to be terrible. We can't do that. Guess what's in Wild Wild West, Grady?
Giant mechanical spider.
Guess what famously comes out of nowhere in Wild Wild West?
Yep. Okay.
Again, no idea how true that is. I just think it's really funny, the idea that there's this one producer who really, really wanted to get a giant mechanical spider in a movie for some reason.
Well, I will note that there isn't one in Three Ninjas.
There isn't one in Three Ninjas.
That makes it better than Wild Wild West.
I genuinely enjoyed this movie more than watching Wild Wild West. I will give you that.
I'll take that. I take those. You don't give me a lot, I take it.
It's not the highest of praise.
I don't know. I think this film being like the fourth in the series, now speaking from somebody who's watched all of them at least once, it's like it struggles a little bit because it is later than the other ones. It is a complete and utter scene change, and they just sort of have to reintroduce the characters to you, like what very little these characters have. they have to reintroduce to you every single movie. They're like, okay, these guys are ninjas. They're trained by their grandpa. I know this is the 4th opening scene where you've seen these people be trained by their grandpa, but they're different actors now, so we need to tell you that these are the same characters. And I would say it is standalone. Like, you don't have to watch any of the other 3 to enjoy this. I think all of the 3 ninjas are pretty much standalone in that way. But this is my favorite in terms of what you're talking about. Stupid movie, just having a laugh, having a fun time watching stupid movie. And I'm sure all the rest of them are that as well. But in my heart of hearts, number 2 I prefer. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is the setting, or maybe it's the feeding dogs crazy ham sandwiches so they stop barking at you and you can go down the sewer drain and run away with a floppy disk.
There were crazy dogs in this movie as well.
That's true. I don't know. Maybe it suffers just because I've seen everything else.
One of the many baffling scenes in this.
Like, I've seen them do 3 Three Ninjas films. What more can you show me these kids doing? But the one thing I guess that like is everybody hates but I enjoyed, which was that the lead female in this cast was probably my favorite out of the lot, because she didn't really give a poop about any of the boys. She was just like, I am here, I have my own reason to be here, and I am helping you. In every one of the other films... She does. She needs to do computer tippy-tappy stuff.
She just kind of tags along, and then, turns out she's... Well, okay, this isn't just this movie, this was every movie in the 90s, where they had, the whiz kid super hacker. Even my all-time favorite movie, Jurassic Park, did the same thing, so I'm not gonna knock it too much for that.
She is a woman in STEM, and we allow that.
Grady, that's not why I have a problem with that trope.
But like, I know you haven't watched the previous films, but like, if I change it to the second film, which is the one I know the best off the top of my head without rewatching, it is a Native American girl that one of the boys falls in love with, and she like teaches them the Native American way and comes around and doesn't get into too many fight scenes, but is sort of just hanging around.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just feel like this is the strongest, which is completely in contrast to what everybody else says about the Three Ninjas films.
Yeah.
I think people hate Amanda.
I will give them that, because like I was honestly expecting her to end up with one of the boys, probably the middle boy Colt, because she seemed the closest in age to him. But then by the end, it's just like, no, they're just kind of they're just mates. And
they're showing you that people can just be friends. Okay? Women can have male friends, it's fine. She was certainly the most interesting character in the movie, purely because she didn't do anything that overtly pissed me off. That the hacking thing kind of irritated me, but that's more of a 90s trope, and it's not the worst. It's not like NCIS, alright? It's not the worst one to do it. She didn't do any cool backflips off buildings, though.
True.
And I'm gonna put down my favorite scene of this film is purely when they're trying to like get the briefcase and the money's going everywhere and they're splashing around and they're all sad, and I don't know, I think it's just comedy scene. Because this movie is a comedy. I don't know what this movie's officially billed as its genre, but it's a comedy.
I believe it's just action comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I gotta say, what this film was going for was Die Hard in an amusement park, right?
It is not what it hit.
That is not what it hit, but that's sort of the premise. That's kind of what, it has that similar kind of vibe, Terrorists take over location A, and, we'll take over a location, and the heroes are caught in the middle of it, and they have to stop it.
Yeah, I guess.
From the inside.
It makes sense. They're the only ones who can do it.
One of the henchmen was inexplicably German, and another one was Jamaican for whatever reason.
Yep. I'm not going to touch
Jamaican hacker.
Not touching
who
that.
was probably my favourite character in the film, if I'm being honest. Purely because every time he showed up, I would always forget. Whenever he would go off screen, I would just forget because I'm too busy focusing on the rest of this dumpster fire of a movie. But then when he shows back up, it hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a Rastafarian hacker in this movie for some reason.
You can't hate on the Rastafarian hacker.
I don't know, and he seemed like he was having a great time. You know, he was really friendly. He was, you know, doing his hacker shtick. It was a lot of fun. I don't know why the entire movie just wasn't about him. What's that guy's story?
Can we have a spin-off?
And it's great because like when they first break into the take over the amusement park, they're all wearing like disguises and stuff. And the main villain, she what did she go by? Viper? No, Medusa.
Medusa, yeah.
Medusa, yeah. She's dressed as a nun for some reason. I thought the Rastafari guy, I thought that was also a disguise. And then when everyone else took off their disguises and he's still dressed like that, I'm just like, oh no, they're actually leading into this. This guy's actually a Rasta, okay? Why are we doing this?
Again, villains are the best part.
I've said multiple scenes in this movie are my favourite. Another favourite scene of mine is the scene where all the bad guys are taking over the theme park. Because it's really just weirdly paced and cut. Like a lot of things in this movie, it's weirdly paced and weirdly cut together. So they kind of go in and out of like all the henchmen taking care of people, and they're all putting on these like they're really lame sunglasses, and they're standing there with their arms folded, and
they're really awesome sunglasses. Please,
it's just the lamest.
It's a good film. I have to keep saying it's a good film.
I think I've gotten through pretty much everything that I had to say. I
think I've defended the film enough, so we're good.
You know, the Hulkster, he really tried. He was genuinely trying with his acting. It's too bad he can't act.
Oof. You're not wrong.
Can't. Some wrestlers are actually pretty good at acting, like Batista, you know, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Did a pretty good job. Edge was in Vikings, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty solid job there. John Cena, you know, I don't know if you've seen the new Suicide Squad or Peacemaker.
I've seen Suicide Squad.
I would highly recommend Peacemaker. John Cena is a very good actor, and I don't know where this came from, but he's actually really good.
He's always been good in the comedy. Don't give him the serious roles. Alrighty, I think we are wrapping up with this film now, Campion. It's probably time for you to go through those facts and figures, if you can even find them for this film.
Yeah, because there isn't a lot of information surrounding this film, but I can't find out what the budget is for this movie. But from what I can tell, I don't think it made its money back, Grady. Not unless this film, starring Hulk Hogan, cost significantly less than $375,000, because that's what it made at the US box office.
Yeah, it was a rough one, I think. The first two films were $26 million together for the two of them, so about $13 million per film. This film definitely flopped. I'm sure it was on a smaller budget, as, you know, coming back and trying to make a fourth Ninjas film, but it was a flop for sure.
Oh yeah, it flopped hard, and okay, we're really stretching the definition of a cult classic here, because
I'm going to stretch it worse, Campion. You've let me take over now. This is no longer the Cult Movie Podcast. This is the Movies Grady Wants to Make Campion Watch podcast.
Well, to be fair, up until now, it has pretty much been the Campion Makes You Watch Movies podcast. This film it has a following of sorts purely for the novelty of it. I think it has a very, very small following among wrestling fans purely because Hulk Hogan is in it, and films that star wrestlers are just fascinating to watch. But I think it's managed to pick up a bit more of a following among the fans of bad movies. Like, I know it's considered as like one of the among like some of the worst films ever made. So it's got something there. I did see this guy. I'm purely reading this off the Wikipedia page. Apparently, some guy, Simon of the Mighty 90s. Have you heard of that at all?
Nope.
Because I definitely haven't. But he had a much more positive take on the film. And hang on, I think I found the podcast episode. Okay, a podcast which barely gets more views than ours. So, not the best. I get the distinct feeling that the actual podcast host added this entry on Wikipedia himself. Classic. If I had to take a wild guess. He called, film about the most 90s movie you can watch, also stating it had the most complex and impressive fight scenes of the franchise, which is a hot take that I vehemently do not agree with. I haven't seen the other films in the franchise. I can guarantee you they have better fight scenes than this movie, because the fights in this movie are just atrocious.
It's a good film.
Grady Hooker. It's a good film.
No, what's what we agreed on? It's entertaining.
It's entertaining. That is the most I will ever give on this movie.
It's like how wrestling isn't wrestling, it's entertainment. This movie isn't a movie, it's entertainment.
But at least wrestling has the decency to be good sometimes.
Look, you were entertained.
I was. So, that is Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain, done and dusted. Grady, you're not telling me what the schedule is. I'm going into all of these completely blind, so hit me with the next one. What is the next film on our list, and is it Money Plane? Money Plane had better be on this list, Grady.
It's not. Campion,
it should be.
This is a film that stars The Rock.
Okay, narrow it down.
There was no random guesses coming out, okay?
He's done a lot of movies. It could be anything from The Scorpion King to Rampage.
It came out in the last 4 years.
Jungle Cruise?
It's about pro wrestling. It is the only one of these... Oh, no, okay. It is one of these films that's actually about pro wrestling.
Oh, is it Young Rock? Oh wait, no, that's a TV show, isn't it? Is it Fighting With My Family?
It's
the movie?
Fighting With My Family, the Paige biopic.
Hey, I completely forgot Paige got a biopic.
Look, we ignore the human Paige because that's kind of gone off the rails lately, but we enjoy the dumpster fire of a life that she had that has been immortalized in this film. More recent film. I'm sorry. Suck it up. I'm picking the films now.
I promise. Wasn't it actually like a decent film? Like, wasn't it actually fairly well received?
I promise. After this pro wrestler season, that we'll get back to cult classic by the pure definition. They Live is in here. You can class that. The fourth film in the pro wrestler season is a film festival film.
Oh, didn't Fighting With My Family do really well, like financially?
Campion, just wrap up the show and stop asking questions.
Okay. Alright. Wait, was Fighting With My Family, was that pre or post her, like, the incident? I love that answer. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on Cult Potato, the cult movie podcast, for joining us in our review of High Noon and Mega Mountain, Three Ninjas, starring Hulk Hogan for some reason. As always, I have been Campion, and joining me with my good co-host, Grady, when we will see you all next time for Fighting With My Family.
It only made like 3.5 times its budget. That's not a lot.
Nearly 4 times its budget, Grady. This has been the Lexicon of Lore, and I hope to see you next time.
Three Ninjas is a good film.